Welcome back after a little bit of a break. The Tour Championship is in the books. The Ryder Cup is on deck, and we're back on it. In today's episode, I'm joined by Matt Kang. He's a former pro hockey player turned creative athlete, and we unpack his journey in golf, the community he's currently building, and how style and story and substance and all of that is shaping this next era of golf. Let's jump in. I think for me specifically, I want to go to the OG, like way back days, because I've never heard like your specific story. Obviously, I've been following you for a minute now, but I'm curious from like your POV, what is the story that you tell people when you're introducing yourself for the first time? Like who is Matt Kang?
Damn, it's funny. The last couple of days I've been asked that question, and it's hard to still answer, but just to keep it as concise and quick as possible. I grew up playing hockey. I'm from Toronto, Canada. Played professionally, was a high OHL draft pick, which is like where you play before the NHL. And then, I loved playing team sports growing up, but I always was passionate about individual sports. And I played professionally for 2 years. I got hurt. I kind of lost interest, and I moved back to Toronto, and I wanted to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I was 22 at the time, and I was really fortunate enough where my dad bought me a golf membership. So I was 23. I grew up playing golf here and there, nothing crazy, never played tournaments. And that's where my journey began, dude. I played every day. I was working a part-time job at Jamba Juice, which is really funny. But I made ends meet, and then I was just like, yo, Dad, I want to chase this dream. And at 24, packed my car, moved to Florida, and that's where my real golf journey began. And I obviously started extremely late. I meet guys and they're like, oh, I started golf at really late. I started at 17, and I'm like, that's way ahead of me. And I was really fortunate enough to get good quick, traveled the world, played on the Asian Tour, PG Tour Americas. I got to play on the Corn Ferry Tour. And I was the game of golf kind of brought me around the whole world, and it was something that I had no idea what it was doing for me. I thought it was always about playing. I thought it was always about just chasing my dreams. And I'm sure you've seen over the last 4 or 5 years with COVID and the boom that we've seen in this game, it just evolved so quickly for us. And my life changed drastically over the last few years, just from the marketing standpoint, the branding standpoint. Found new passion in the game and doing different things, and I decided to go all in on this new career that I have while still dabbling into playing. But if I had a title right now, yeah, I like to call myself a creative athlete. Golf is the foundation of what I do, and then that gives me the opportunities to have design, collabs, events, activations to communicate with you. It's the game of golf that brought this opportunity for me, and then I'm able to think about what I want to do and what I want to do in this space, and go all in on an idea. So that's probably be my title right now.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I've kicked around the idea too of just because of the surge in interest in what's going on in the YouTube world, we have to create a new, almost like a new athlete, like you said, the creative athlete, the entertainment athlete, just because of what's going on in that world, and those numbers are so big. And then what's happening on the creative level too is really interesting. But a lot of yourself is still a stick. That's something that I mentioned in the post too, is this guy just isn't into clothes. He doesn't just dress good. The guy can actually play too.
Yeah. I when I built this lifestyle for myself, I thought about what separates me from everyone. And I think for me, anytime I've had a really cool job opportunity, or the PGA Tour gave me access and certain brands, the first thing I say is my advantage on anyone else, that's whether you compare me or not, which it really doesn't matter, is the fact that I've been inside the ropes. I've played over 15 Q schools in my lifetime. I've played in 30 countries, and that's something I'm really proud of. Whether you succeed or not, I think the game of golf teaches you so much. And yeah, I've been inside the ropes. I've had my card. And I think for me, I'll always be proud of that, just because I have a perspective that not many people can say that they have. And then I think it validates my opinions on the game. It validates the lifestyle that I have. But I talked about it on Instagram the other day. Like sometimes I lose sight of my foundation of like what started everything, because life is so fast. We have so much in our
Mm.
face, so many cool brands, so many cool moments, and it's like, yo, I can't. I'm in Toronto right now. I came back home to visit family, and I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna practice. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna play, and make sure that I take care of what provided everything for myself. And I've never felt more inspired to like do so many things right now, which is it's a really good place for me to be in.
Hmm. So what year did you move to Florida then?
Damn, Ray, I'm old, so I gotta think about this.
Oh, me too. Same.
I want to say I was 24, so 11 years ago. So we're 2025, 2014. So 2014,
2014.
I moved to Daytona Beach. I had a friend
Hmm.
that lived there. She was the number one golfer in Canada. Her name is Rebecca Lee Bentham. She's pretty popular on social media now. She was the number one golfer in Canada. She was based out of there. And she's like, you know what? You should just come out here and like see what you could do. I sucked at golf at this point. Like I couldn't break 90 in a golf tournament. And I said, screw it. I just packed my car. I moved out there. I rented a place off of Craigslist and joined the same course that she was at. And I literally just like, the lifestyle was crazy back then, dude. It was all day long, like working out, practicing, playing. And the first person I actually met as a friend, who's one of my closest friends now, Christian Heavens, we did our own podcast,
Hmm.
Flush Out. And that was how I built all my close relationships in this game. And it's just funny how 10 years later, we're both in Scottsdale and he's playing, he's working, I'm doing my thing. But yeah, it started 11 years ago.
So what do you think has changed the most in terms of either the way you play golf or just the way you interact with the sport?
Wow. Yeah. You know, as over the last few years, it's been completely different, right? I think it's changed me as a person because when you're a pro athlete and you're playing at a high level tour, you want to be extremely guarded. You don't want to share the information that you have with others because you're trying to find a competitive edge. You're playing with your buddies at home in the off season and you're helping each other, but you're trying to, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on your podcast, but you want to
Oh
be as
yeah.
competitive as possible, right? So I went from being like an extremely routine based athlete where I'd wake up, eat, go to the gym, practice from 9 to 3 p.m., play 18 holes till sundown. And I would do that every single day. What am I working on? What am I getting better at? Who am I going to, talk to develop my game? And that was it every single day. Nothing changed. And then you would go hit the road and you would compete. And then all of a sudden, my career evolves. I have a son now. I'm married, and like my routine is it's just a complete 180, right? It's like I wake up, I take care of my son. I spend time with my family, and then I'm on the phone and I'm making calls and I'm coming up with new ideas. And now golf has had to take not a back seat, but it had to be the third or fourth uh, thing that I do in the day, right? And
Hmm.
it was really hard, when I stopped playing full time. I want to say 2.5, 3 years ago. It was really hard for my ego, and it was really hard for me to accept the fact that like I'm playing with my buddies and I'm getting my ass kicked. And
Mm.
um, at the moment, I was like, oh, maybe I lost it. Maybe I just lost the sauce of like being really, really good and competitive. And then again, I matured, and it made me realize like I have to adjust to the way I prepare to play, whether it's for fun or competitively, right? So it's like less practice, a little bit more play, being precise with like what I want to work on when I go to the range. And honest to God, dude, it's taken me like a full year to transition from not being the person that is on the range all day long, because I was a range rat. Like I really didn't enjoy playing 18 holes every single day. I was like once, maybe twice a week, and I would sit on the driving range for like 7 to 10 hours a day. Um, so yeah, it's been a huge change. It's been fun. Um, Obviously, I haven't played a tournament in like over a year, and it's something that's like always in the back of my mind, because I think if I were to tell you or anyone that's paying attention that's chasing this game, like there's no timeline for success. And for me, I still have the dreams of like being on tour and winning one day. And I can't forget that because again, like I said at the start of this combo, like being an athlete is the center and is what given me everything. So I can't forget that passion.
Hmm. That's so fascinating because I grew up playing a lot of team sports. Like I hooped, I ran track, I played college football, and like the competitive side in me will always exist, but it's always come through the lens of competing with people around me. So
Hmm.
that is a ways that I've always leveled up, is just because even if you're trying to get bigger, faster, stronger in the weight room, you're around a group of individuals where your competitive engines are flowing based off of the energy around you, which
Yeah,
helps you elevate. And then again, when you're going and playing on Saturdays, there's 22 other people on the field with you. You're all competing, even on these one-on-one situations. Golf is so lonely in all aspects of it. And this idea that you have to fire up your internal engine in the sense that you're competing against yourself, but also what's going on in the field. But your game is very focused on shot to shot what you're doing, not
yeah,
necessarily how and what's happening around you.
yeah. I
Like
think like
how much different is that from like the lifestyle of hockey, just knowing that that was a team sport,
wow,
to
dude,
like
I'm
where
not
your
gonna
head
lie
is
to you.
now?
It took me years to adapt, and I'm still like hockey makes you a reactive person. You have to have a really quick
Mm,
reactive personality to adapt to what's going on the ice. When even when you're on the bench, you're paying attention to what's going on, and there's so many variables that you have to think about, and you're relying on four other guys on the ice, but like 25 other guys on your team. Where golf, I got thrown into the wolves, man. Like that year I started, my dad got a job opportunity, moved to Korea. My mom was in Toronto. I was like, I'm gonna chase this dream. I had no coach. I barely had any money. I just had my car and I was just at my golf clubs and I was like, I'll figure it out. And it was extremely, extremely hard for me. I wish we had YouTube and Instagram back then so that I could get the information
hmm.
now. Like, yo, I talk about this all the time. Like your platform, you talk about product and clothing and footwear and anything that you're passionate about. But like, yo, 10 years ago is not that long ago and we didn't have any of that, you know?
Anything.
And I think for me though, it was harder, but then it allowed me to have a real passion for what I really want to do and really want what I'm interested in, what I want to be. And for me, it was like, if I wasn't golfing, I was on my computer looking at clothes, buying clothes, going to the mall, going out to eat, and talking to people. And just to like fast forward a little bit, I lived in Florida for a year, came back to Toronto, and the first thing I was like, all right, where am I going to go play Q school? So I saw that
Mm.
Asian tour was in Thailand, and dude, I packed my bags. I was 24, turning 25. I packed my bags. I moved to Thailand, and I stayed there for 2.5 years. And that
That is
taught
so
me,
insane.
yeah, it's crazy. I stayed in a Holiday Inn for like 6 days, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but like after day three, I called my dad crying, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like I'm an idiot. Like why am I here right now? And he's like, you'll make it work. And I met some guy on a driving range, and he's like, I could help you find a place. And I rented an apartment. I got a car. I settled up. It's actually how I met my wife. And I look back at my life now, and I'm like, those experiences of just being free and chasing the
Mm.
game allowed me to learn the game globally and connect with people in a unique way. And everything that I'm doing now stems from all that.
It's like a fight or flight. Like I think
Yeah.
when you find yourself in like uncomfortable situations, your mind expands. You take in other information, other realities that's going on, especially from like a global perspective,
Hmm.
and then you come back with a really interesting view on things. And I think again, the reason why you caught my interest is your taste, both in experiences and then also, like you had mentioned, there wasn't just a lot of people that were talking about clothes in golf. This is
Yeah.
like 2 or 3 years ago too, which is wild.
True.
So the idea that you have traveled the world, you've done all these like really interesting things and had all these really interesting experiences has also like formed your taste and interest in at that level. Is there, because I think from that 10-year gap, that's what I was hoping that you were going to pick at. I think both it's your the way that you've curated taste and then also community too, in the
Yeah.
sense of like how you've interacted with the game has evolved over those 10 years. Because it isn't as lonely anymore. You've built like an actual community. And again, I think going back to exactly what you just said, you being in a different space, in a different place, you had to grow. You had to have conversations. It helped build your character, your interest, and then go and like shoot your shot in a lot of these different other
For sure.
projects and other worlds that you've built.
For sure. I think I think that's like the hard part. I think I'm a really misunderstood person, especially using the platforms that we have on social media. You think you know somebody and you get as much information as they'll give you, but you really don't know them until you meet them. And I think for me, I've always fought the battle of like trying to be the most authentic version of myself on this platform, but also there's certain things that I protect that's for me and my family and my friends, right? And I think I'm pretty sure you could say the same thing. Like people have an opinion of you, people have an idea of you, but they don't know who you are really. And it's our
Mm-hmm.
jobs to make them understand. But what makes someone really get to know who Matt or Raymond is like a human experience. And that was the focus of building a community, doing the events that I do. I think the world moves so fast. Technology is changing so much. 99% of people that I speak with on Instagram or on social media, just like you and I, we've never met yet, but we're on a podcast. And I think that's the beauty of it. But it's also like, the days of you and me meeting, shaking hands, and then, having coffee and getting to know each other, right? Um, those are things that I consciously think about whenever I curate anything creatively for my audience and my community because technology is just taking over and it's just so quick. And I want to be able to say, you know what? Let's enjoy the moment together and let's allow the content or the creative ideas that I put together live where it needs to so that people can understand what is going on from the outside and hopefully as time goes on they can all experience it together. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the taste that um, I've inherited over the last decade is, I lived in Bogota, Colombia. I lived in Thailand. I lived in Malaysia. I've been to 30 plus countries from the game, and I played everywhere. I met all these people, and it allowed me to learn about again, like about the game globally, but also fashion, dude. Like, that's the space I would say that you're categorized in, and that's something that I am in it as well. But I'm not in it the way you are, and I think, and for me, I wanted to understand and develop my taste in my own way, and that's what allowed me to do, seeing the whole world.
When did that start becoming of interest in that from the time you moved to Florida to like where we are now? Was that something that was always just gradually started to become the thing?
No, dude. I was into clothes from the day I can remember. Since my cousin Dave put an old Ralph Lauren hat on my head when I was like 7. Like, I still remember these moments, and I would go to the Tommy Hilfiger store and get these bombers when I was 9, and cop this like Charlotte Hornets starter jacket when I was 11. Like these are moments that I never forgot. I forget everything else, and I get a lot of trouble for that. But when it comes to clothes and golf, like I can remember every single moment when I got my first pair of Jordan 11s. And then now that I'm thinking about it, when I quit hockey when I was 22, my friends out in Toronto presented an opportunity to open up a clothing store with them. And I
Mm.
was this close. It was either clothes or chase golf. And I was so invested into this store, like APC denim and Our Legacy polos. And like, I'm still wearing that stuff to this day, Common Projects. And I was like, yo, I really love clothes. Like, I really want to do this. But I was 22 and I was broke, you know?
Mm.
And if I was like, and I was like, if I'm broke and I'm young, I might as well chase a sport that I can do now and maybe do the clothes thing later. So that's literally what my 9 to 5 was golf all day, shop all evening. And that's allowed me to have interest in what I'm doing now. I'm really grateful for people that notice the taste and the passion that I have because it's been a lifelong journey.
Hmm. So how did it work when you started introducing yourself to brands? Were you reaching out based off of what you were interested in or what like a lot of these brands were doing from a
Yeah,
golf
so
standpoint?
I think this is a great question. This is free game and it's something I've always wanted to talk about, and I appreciate you asking that. You know, when I started this journey, I kind of felt like I was the OG clothes guy that like wore stuff on the course and got in a lot of trouble for wearing it. And then, you know, like you said, like social media and fashion and golf really popped off over the last 2, 3 years. And I downloaded Instagram 4 years ago, you know, and
Mm.
I still remember like the first photo that I posted. I was wearing a Laura Piana polo and these green Dickies at Riviera, and it had like 300 likes. You know, I had like 100 followers, and I was like, "Oh shit! Like I did something cool." Um, and that was like the start of it all for me, of like posting photos wearing what I liked, and it's crazy, man. I talked about it here and there, but I got into a lot of trouble wearing. You know, at the start it was like a lot of designer stuff because I was really into it, and
Mhm.
a lot of trouble for it. I got told by a lot of courses that this what you're wearing doesn't align with our club, and I'm like, dude, I'm wearing a collared shirt. Like, my
Yeah.
pants are a bit bigger. You can't tell me I don't fit in. I look better than everyone here. You know. And then I'm like, it is what it is. But the game wasn't at the point where it's at now, where we have a movement and voices that can speak for people and access to information right now, right? So the people are more educated in the space now. So, yeah,
Mhm. Well, I think I don't know if this was a live session or if it was a story or if you posted it, but this was like literally in the last couple of days when you asked the question of like, what's the next like evolution of the sport now that we've had a ton of reach in golf and like a lot of stuff has changed. And I think, again, you kind of alluded it to it, but I think the next level is depth, which is what you've been doing for over a year now, where you've seen like the explosion that's happening. You've taken your interest over the last 10 years and acquired all these different experiences and whatnot. And then now we're working on the depth level. Because I think that the question that you asked specifically was either these big brands, these heritage brands, giving people of authority in the space or creatives in the space to be able to come in and curate really interesting experiences or product. Is
yeah,
that something in these last couple of years that you specifically like? How did you get into that lane
yeah. And
of curating these different experiences?
I didn't finish answering your question with the brands. I was lucky enough. I think you're part of it as well. You know, the 1% of people that actually get to do this for a living and have it as a full-time job, and people notice it. I talk about being grateful for the audience that I have. I'm sure you are as well, and a lot of us that are in this space, but it is not easy. So when specific brands that you wear or enjoy reach out to you, it's an amazing, awesome feeling, and I think we're all grateful for it. And I just got really lucky where the taste that I had, the things that I was wearing, and the message that I was giving to the world was connecting with the right people.
Mm.
And I was putting the energy out there of what I enjoy, but I was also being extremely patient with who was communicating with me. And Raymond, I'll be honest with you, I probably said no to more work projects in the last 2 years of my career than yes. And I was really, really, really specific with who I worked with. It probably hurt me more than it helped me, but what it did long term is it allowed me to be selective and create a resume for myself that was really specific with how I wanted my brand to be portrayed to the world. And
Hmm.
everything happened. It was like a ripple effect, and as it grew, different brands would reach out, and different ideas would come about. And I think for me, when I wake up and I think about what do I want to do, is like I want to be able to have my brand, which is myself, create with whatever brand it is that wants to work with me. But I want to do it where I bring their brand the most awareness, but also coming through my lens and how I would want to see it, you know? And
Mm.
perfect examples, like Lulu hit me 3 months ago and they're like, hey, do you want to do like an activation with us? And, you know, we threw some ideas out and I was like, listen, if I'm going to do it, like, I want to do it through my lens and how I see the brand. And we did this really cool event, and it was a hit, but it was also like they gave me the creative freedom to just do as I please. And that's what I really, really enjoy, is like, you know, working on projects with people and letting my mind take over rather than a piece of paper that says these are the deliverables, this is what you got to do and follow these rules, you know. And I think that's for me,
Mhm.
whenever there's rules for me, I break them. It's just what it is. Yeah.
No, I mean that makes a ton of sense because again, I I think the depth comes from being specific,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you brought that up because a lot of people reach out and they either want to start new channels or do stuff that's outside of golf. And my biggest point of feedback is always being patient. Like
Hmm.
you're gonna get your interest in not even necessarily the niche, but like your own personal experiences, the stuff that you enjoy. Like just focus on that and then as things grow, as things develop, that's when then you can have the authority and the opportunity to kind of pick and choose. Cause like where I'm at right now, and this is like the internal battle that I fight literally on the daily is the difference between curating and covering, which are way different. I
Really hard.
started out just specifically curating because there's a lot of like really interesting new brands that were popping up in the space that a lot of people didn't know about. So in a way, my thing was there's a lot of stuff that I'm personally interested in, and then sharing that POV to people. Now it's a little bit of because of the size of the audience, you're starting to get opportunities for both coverage that I might not specifically be interested in, but I'm trying to like bring my own POV to it where it's,
Yeah.
oh, I might not be specifically like interested in the product or think it's good or bad or whatever, but this is like my POV on the specific story. But that only came from all of my like curating the things that I enjoyed and providing like my thought and perspective on specific stories and product. If I just
Yeah.
came out and just covered everything, that's already going on in the space.
Yeah. I think that's like, and I don't blame people for doing that because, you know, I'm competitive, but I also completely understand how hard it is to build an audience and a
Yeah.
lane for yourself. And I think like, what are you supposed to do when so many people are popping off and they're getting views and they're getting deals? And it's just like, you know, I think like that's the hard part about being a creator or an influencer in this space is like if some brand gives you a budget and it's not your value, they're just going to find someone that's going to do it for way cheaper that's going to say yes, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like I don't blame people for trying to do everything, because I think through doing everything and maybe doing too much, if you're smart enough, you'll focus on the one or two things that hit and then you can run with it. And I'm a perfect example, dude. Like people ask me how I built my community, and it's funny. It's called Sniper Gang, but like, I really don't know where the name came from. I don't know how this happened. It just happened, you know. And I think like you know you've done an amazing job. We've talked for over the last few years, and I think like I understand your perspective of finding the balance because it's extremely hard to be raw and original when you're at a point where you have an audience and brands want to work with you, but also delivering
Mm-hmm.
what that brand needs from you, especially if it's work and it's paid work. And now the audience is so smart that they can dissect like what's real and what isn't, right?
Yep.
And you know, I think for me, I'm really transparent with my audience. Like, yo, listen, this is an opportunity. It's a paid project where I'm able to do something really fun, and they support me. And at the end of the day, I'm a dad, and I have a family, and you too, right? Like, we got to take care of our family, but that's a daily thing I struggle with of like if I'm too raw and I'm too real and I say I don't like something, I'm offending somebody in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to turn into someone telling someone else something and it could hurt my brand at some point. And you know, but at the end of the day, like my audience came from me being that version of who I was, right? So that battle that you have, that I have, that struggle is extremely, extremely hard. And yeah, I think but that's also part of our job is to figure out a way to be the realest version of ourselves and bring and doing what you do best and the same for me, but also staying true to it. And I think like, you know, I ask my community probably way too often, like, yo, how's the development of who have become presented to you guys? Give me feedback. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you
Mm-hmm.
don't like because I think that's one thing in the golf space that I I'm not frustrated with, but I like struggle with is that like it is really hard to be really truthful in this space because if you say something real, you're a hater, and it's like yo, they always say if you fail, that's how you become a winner, right? So like, what is
Hmm.
wrong with saying this needs to be better? I'm not the biggest fan of this, because then you're allowing that person to say, you know what? Well, let me go fix it. Let me go make it better and see if it could be presented to the world better, right? And again, everyone's opinion is subjective, but that's something that I really think about a lot.
That I think has not happened in golf
No.
ever, and it's starting. Like you can feel it now because like even when I post on my stories when like a collection or a drop happens, and I don't give my thoughts about it, I leave it up to there's a couple of like tens of thousands of people that'll see a story and then a couple of thousand people that will vote birdie or bogey on a collection. I get hit up from product development teams, marketing heads and stuff if something is trending in the wrong direction. And I
Yeah.
think from that lens, there hasn't been a time and space, a project, anything that has existed where they're getting direct feedback from their consumers. And
No.
so when they're seeing it for the first time and it's objective truth, they're in a tunnel version, this reality where they're not getting the feedback other than when stuff isn't selling or whatnot. And then everybody's like looking around the room trying to figure out what happened. This exchange that's happening now, I think, is starting to like turn things in a positive light where creatives like yourself can come in, not just audit, but like help build product, help build the spaces and experiences the right way that people want because you're so in the weeds building these different communities. And it's specific too. When I go back to like how important the specifics are.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and I'm glad you said that, because it's a tough economy right now, right? Like, people aren't spending the money the way they used to on equipment, even on clothing. Because if you really want a product, dude, you could wait 3 to 4 months; it'll go on sale and you can buy it. Or we're in this crazy wave of like secondhand clothing. Vintage clothing is
Yep.
taking over the world. And it's a great space for fashion right now, right? Like, you could be streetwear, you could be designer, you could be vintage, you could fit in and have a really specific look and get awareness. But I truly believe that brands need to understand like the consumer's voice, and that is hard for them because it comes off negative. And then at the end of the day, like, these people that work at these corporations, they're working for somebody, so there's only so much they can do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you put them in someone in a position to say, hey, my audience doesn't like this, they have to report to someone else. So it's like, it's a really hard space to cover. And that's why for me, when I started, I was really opinionated on what I loved and what I didn't like. And I changed the way I communicate to my audience and focusing on what I enjoy, and
Yep.
not even paying attention to what I don't enjoy, because I've realized like it's just a waste of time for me. Like, if someone's not going to actually
Mm-hmm.
listen to what, like you said, like thousands of people, I posted a story on my close friends where like I have millions of people that come to my Instagram platform, whether they follow me or not. And if you're not going to pay attention to those people clicking my page, looking for information, I rather focus on how I can build with my audience and my people, and talking about it with you, right? Because hopefully that everyone sees this is like it's a real issue. Like, people need to listen to the youth, and they need to listen to voices that understand product and what people want, and then giving them access to actually have input to make a change. And I still don't think it's there yet.
Mm-hmm. No, and it definitely like these conversations help. And the big influence that I talk about that nobody is aware from a consumer lens is the buyer. Like I talked about this with Stephen Malbin of like people want to point fingers at me or you or anybody else that's in the industry from a creative aspect of like what things that we're talking about. But what's available to shop is based off of the buyer's POV and what they want. And to your point, they have to check in with somebody when things go wrong. So
Hmm.
the way they move is I need to get these numbers for these bean counters at the top to make sure that we're hitting our line items from a revenue perspective. So they're just buying what's selling, what's worked in the past. And so
Yeah.
the idea that I'm starting to get more questions about specific brands and what I'm interested in from a buyer's perspective, which tells me they're listening and then are open to the idea of trying new things. And you're starting to see it a little bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that again, that goes back to the depth thing where it's like, okay, the reach has happened, Like, what does volume 2 look like? That comes down to depth.
Yeah, and I think with like, you know, I talk about it a lot how like brands are chasing community because it's a really great way to market your brand and have an audience tap in. And it's like, that's why I built Sniper Gang. I have hundreds, if not thousands of kids and adults worldwide that support and trust my opinion. It's taken me 3, 4 years to get the trust of these people. And we want more. You know, I can only deliver as much as I can from an experiential level to collaboration on clothing to social media content to engaging with like ex NBA player if that's something that we're passionate about. And it's like, yo, I have an audience of thousands of people. I have a group chat that hundreds of people are in daily on WhatsApp talking, and we want to go to a specific brand and do something dope and design and create, and it will sell out. You know, I know we talked about it a little bit. I did a collab with my friend Brandon with Merrill Golf, and you know,
Hmm.
went to Paris for it, and like, dude, we sold out of everything in 5 minutes. You know, I did a pre-access sale. I don't know if I should talk about this, but whatever. I did a pre-access sale on my close friends the night before, and every shirt, every head cover sold out. And it's just like I built a community that trusts myself, and you have as well as too. And we want to be able to design and create way more. And that's the battle that you're gonna have to fight, that I'm gonna have to fight. Is that like, how do we do more, but also stay in a space where we're original and real, right?
Hmm. Well, that's interesting because when I worked at Nike, I worked with Nike Running. This was like 2013 through 2016, something like that. And the big thing that I was a part of was Nike run clubs and like
Yeah,
how important run clubs were because they were city specific. So you could like get on the ground level and understand what consumers wanted and needed. And these are beginning runners. These are runners that are running marathons on the weekly. And I think something that hasn't existed in golf is that community aspect. That goes back to like the very top of this question. And like what you've built with Let's Get Better Together, that's the version of a Nike run club. And a lot of
bro,
that, you're starting to see that trickle in more, but like how important that stuff is, I don't think like that aspect of things has been talked about enough.
dude, driving range link ups, which I'm seeing more people do now, which is great. You know, I'll get somebody to hit me like, yo, look at somebody copied. I'm like, good. This is not mine. This is for everybody. I may have started a movement, and it's funny. Like I'm in Toronto. I did one out here. Raymond, I don't
Yep.
even. So I don't know how my reach is physically or in person, and we had 78 people show up. Like that's a lot of people at a
That's a
driving
lot
range.
of people.
You know, I had zero branding. I had, you know, a friend do hamburgers for us. I pulled some gifts together that I had, and really that was it. And usually when I do them, I'll get a brand involved. I did Callaway, I had StockX, I did a bunch of other people. And that's like, obviously the prizes are fun for everybody, but it's more about the connection of people. And like when I do it in Phoenix, everybody shows up. When I do it in LA, the community shows up. I've done it in Seattle. But to do it in Toronto and where I'm from, but somewhere where I don't live, it showed me like, yo, there's a responsibility that I have for my community to deliver on my word. And that's something that I wish brands invested in more because, yo, why wouldn't you want a community of 50 to 100 people globally following the movement, following a voice of originality and creation and making a dream real, you know? Like, let's just be honest, you and I, what we're doing, I don't know if we really thought we could do this 5 years ago, 3 years ago.
Hmm.
And that is like, we're inspiring, actually, we're inspiring millions of people through the time of our work to chase their dreams, to have good taste, to build their wardrobe, to chase pro golf. And I always think of what I'm doing is like, if I could make one person's life a little bit better in my community and actually have him become or her become a pro golfer or a tastemaker in what they're into, I'm doing my job. And
Hmm.
I think the hard part about that originality is that, like you said, like people care so much about analytics and follows and clicks and views, and that gets in the way of what's really going on. And that is the hard part because, listen, dude, I could go on Instagram tomorrow. I could post swing videos. I can post fit
Yep.
pics. I could say what I don't like. I know I could grow my Instagram following way quicker and become more popular, be the guy that everyone laughs at, be the guy that like really deserves a piece, but I'm not happy doing that. You
Hmm.
know, it just brings me no joy in doing that. So I realize like unfortunately, if I want to be happy and I want to be real, I have to go down this direction, and it might be a little longer, it might be a little bit harder, but that's the choice that I have to live with.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the difference between reach and depth. Like we're just in a depth era, and it's like there's not a lot of people that have a ton of depth. There's a ton of people that have a lot of reach because they're all kind of doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But who has like real depth? Who's going to make an impact in the next 5 years?
Yeah.
That's going to
It,
be really interesting.
yeah, and I think for me, like I've really enjoyed collaborating with people on clothing product just to test the industry and the market to see if like my value really transitions into like a transaction or like product that people enjoy. And in the last year, I've done 4 collabs that have sold out faster than I could imagine, and it made me realize like, wow, people really do want product from what I'm creating, and that is enough information for me to want to do it a little bit more. So yeah, there's the space is it's a great space to be in. It's really hard, as you know, but we definitely need it to grow quicker so that we can do more.
Is there any like dream projects or anything that you're like chasing down now that you would love to bring to life in terms of
Um,
product?
yeah, I mean, I think throwing my ego aside, like 100%, dude, I want to be able to go to like a brand and create long term, and not only create on the content side, but like deliver everything that I'm doing at once in one household. And I talked about it actually. You know what? I recorded a video 2 days ago and then I deleted it just because I don't know if social media was ready for it. But you look at Pharrell, who worked 20 years ago. He was friends with Marc Jacobs, and Marc Jacobs brought him into Louis Vuitton. Like Marc Jacobs built
Hmm.
the creative house at Louis Vuitton, and giving him a chance to design the millionaire sunglasses inspired his whole career to now Pharrell's the creative lead at LVMH, right? And it's like, yo, we're a sport unlike any other industry. You look at rappers be finding the young rapper and signing them to their label and giving them a song to blow up. NBA players, Kobe Bryant put DeMar DeRozan and Jason Tatum on, giving them access to how he played. Um, LeBron does it too, and music, fashion, everything. But like in golf, we're still not at the point where like people are seeing the talent and saying, listen, I want to give you the chance to create design, and hopefully it hits to the world so that you can be the next person to take over and really make a real change. And I think for me, that's something I'm chasing. There's been a few opportunities that were really dope that just never worked out. That timing is everything. But yeah, I would love to take creative lead on footwear and fashion and experiences, and do everything that I do and say, listen, there's like a complete package, and if we're patient and we work together, we can create something new that I haven't seen in golf. And I think that's the hard part, right? Like just because you're first doesn't mean people are going to get it.
Hmm.
But I think that if you do something right and real first, and you can grow together, you could create something that this space hasn't seen yet. And that's what I'm always chasing.
Hmm. No, I love that. And what's really interesting, Jeff Staple put out like a bunch of series of tweets around like collaborations and
Saw that.
how stale like collaborations have been over the last couple of years because there's no meaning, there's no purpose behind it. I mean, that's where I go back to what you and I have been talking about over the last couple of years is just exactly what you said. Like the industry doesn't have a Pharrell, there's no Salehi. Like that person hasn't existed because they haven't gotten the opportunity yet. And I think both from a consumer lens, it's really important for consumers to be able to get access to different things, but also internally for internal teams to like open up the aperture. Because, like, again, somebody who's been around to 30 different countries, has played around the world, has met a lot of really interesting people, has an interesting story, brings a new POV into a room of people that have been sitting on their computers 40 hours a week that aren't getting out into the world, being able to get access and see things, touch and feel and just learn. When you have the opportunity to come in and challenge, but also again open up the aperture, that's when like really interesting things start to happen outside of just leaning into what a collaboration could do from a reach perspective. And I think again, to your point, like it all comes down to patience and just trying to find people that can help with specific things that you're trying to achieve in the industry.
Yeah, and there's good people that are fighting for us. I will not.
Hmm.
There's a there's hundreds of them. I talk with them, and I'm sure you talk with them all the time, and it just takes time. And two things I want to say is collaborations. I talk about this with my friend Will, who's in the brand marketing space, and he's like, collaborations mean Raymond and Matt are working on X idea or product, and it's the best version of you and it's the best version of me, and delivering it to the world. And I know Jeff Staple talked about, right, 1 + 1 = 3. And I think when he put out those tweets, he was talking about how like sometimes people just be doing collabs because the company says we need 12 collabs this year, so if you don't get that done, you're not hitting your marks, you're not hitting your bonuses. And that's unfortunate because humans are too smart, man. We can see what is going on, and now we question before we even decide, like, is this the best collab? Is this what I want to spend my hard-earned money on? And if it
Hmm.
isn't, that's the reason why a lot of stuff is just sitting on shelves, you know. And then on the other end of that, it's just really hard to hear people and then have that voice be heard and transition it to like other people in a room. Because I think when you have a message and it gets transferred through multiple people, that message gets distorted as it goes on, you know?
Oh, it's a game of telephone. We've been playing that
Yeah,
since we were kids.
exactly.
Well, cool. So, is there anything that you're working on now that you want people to kind of pay attention to or keep their eyes on?
Yeah, I got a couple things. I got a couple really big opportunities that I won't lie to you, I'm still sitting thinking how I want to go about them. What do I want to do? I posted the shoe. I actually have them, and I want to know your opinion. You've asked me a lot of questions, but Painter, they're obviously popping off right now. Jason Day's done like a crazy thing with them. Justin Rose won last week, and like I was fortunate enough for them to just send me their new shoe, which is I think launching next month.
Hmm.
I'm actually going to be going to on a work project with them next month to help support this. But I'd love to know your opinion because this is actually like this is the only retail pair that has been out other than Jason Day's pair.
Hmm. No, it's fire. It like I've been talking about Painter for a minute. I feel like I was
Yeah,
very early just because they're in my backyard, but like
yeah,
one of the most underrated brands in the entire sport right now.
yeah. No, they've done crazy work. You know, like it's been pretty cool to see.
They're also open to exploring like
Yeah,
different colorways. This is something that I've talked about at nauseum over the last 2 years of just like try these energy projects that aren't necessarily available as like a general release, just to like start the conversation around new things. They're
yeah,
super open to that, which is, I think, again, is credit to their team. They've been in the industry for a really long time. A lot of the heads that are like working behind the scenes that people aren't aware of, but
yeah.
yeah,
Which
and
we
then
know.
obviously like the shoes are just awesome.
Yeah, no, that so I'm gonna work on a project with them. I got a couple more things I'm working on, which I don't want to talk about yet, just because if it's not set in stone yet, you don't want to put that energy out yet. But
Hmm.
I'm in a place right now. I'm in a really good creative place right now where I'm working on a few things that I think my audience will like, that the culture would appreciate, and it's just gonna take some time for me to do that. And I think like anyone that's watched my content has kind of noticed like I'm getting back more into like raw content of like showing the journey of what I'm doing right now. And I'm filling that in with like events and experiences that I'm creating. But there's a few things that are in my timeline that I'm putting a lot of hours and energy into, and it gets me really excited. A little hint, one thing that I'm working on is like I'm in the middle of like designing my own brand for fun. I don't know what I want to do with it yet. I have a name, I have a logo, I have product. I fight every day, like if I want to do it, just because, it's time consuming. Like it
Mhm.
takes a lot of energy and time, and I've built an amazing team here to support me, but until I'm ready to go like all in, I'm 50-50 on it every single day.
Yeah. No, it's really difficult because I get asked that all the time, and I'm like, I have all the ingredients, but it is, again, I have young kids, I got a wife, I got a bunch of stuff that's going on. If I want to give it the energy that it deserves to be as good as I want it to be, it's going to suck the life out of everything else that I have going on. And like this other stuff that I have working on is just more important right now for me. The thing that I love that you're doing is the YouTube stuff. That
Oh,
is
really?
very difficult and very time consuming, but it is because, again, something that I've talked about a lot. Golf is so much more than what's happening inside the ropes,
Dude,
and like this between the moments, like in between moments stuff is that's where all these really these different communities come from, and the stories that people talk about. That stuff I'm like obsessed with right now.
yeah, I appreciate you paying attention. I did my first YouTube last year at my tournament to the nines, and it was something that I wanted to do. And I think like YouTube is a completely different beast than Instagram, and it's obviously a
Oh my
real
god.
base I'm sure it's hard to tap into, but I told my team that like I want to create projects and visuals for everything that I'm doing and having them live somewhere so that one day like my son or my team can use this as reference and be inspired by.
Yep.
And I won't lie to you, man, this To the Nines project we did, I've seen a lot of people use that and hit me and be like, yo, this is like the mood board for something that we're creating. I'm like, dude, that's what it's there for. You know,
Hmm.
Virgil, when he passed away, he left a website for all of us to have access to brand develop, content, all this stuff. And like, that's essentially what I'm doing. And even though I don't talk about it every day, that's kind of the focus of it all. And there's going to be more that we do, but I have a media employee, Arthur, and like he only has so many hours in a day to like film, edit Instagram videos and other projects, and then like YouTube, right? But I think like this world is so accessible to create what you want, and I think anyone that does watch this, like, if I want to tell anyone a message, it's like, yo, don't pay attention to like what others say and what others are doing on your platform. Just focus on yourself. And like when I create uh, experiences for people, I want to like turn back the time a little bit. We go to the internet and Instagram so easily to find out like what's cool, what's new, what I want to buy, what's going on. And like, I want to go back to a time where like AI is taking over everything. So I want to create experiences where you got to be there to know what is going on and feel how much fun everyone's having. And that's what I would want people to know what I'm doing moving forward is like, I want it to be real. And, everyone calls me a content creator, and I'm like, I'm not a content creator. I live my
Hmm.
life and I show what I'm doing. I show moments of what I'm doing on social media, but my experiences and my events, the content is just proof of concept for it to live on a social platform. I'm not actually doing these events for the content. I'm doing it for
Hmm.
people. I'm doing it for who I'm working with and for the people that want it. And I really wanted to say that because I think together, even for you, right, you've paid attention to what I'm doing, and I think a lot of people get confused. It's like, oh, Matt, what's your next piece of content you're putting out? I'll be like, the next piece is the next event that I do so that you can understand what I'm creating. But really, it doesn't matter. What matters is if
Hmm.
that event was successful for people that were there.
Yeah. No, 100%. That, and I feel like what was it? A couple of weeks ago when I had mentioned, because a lot of the drama that's going on with some of the collabs that have happened recently, and just talking about like the monetary value is infinite when it comes to lived experiences. Like you can't put a number on that
Can't.
because it's not, you can't replicate that. It happens in that moment in time that sure you can try to duplicate it, but again, what happens in that moment in that time is that means something. There's depth that you can't replicate there.
Yeah, it's you know, I talk about it a lot. Like, you know how hard it is to get people to show up, especially if you're not a brand owner? Like, I
Yep.
don't have the New York Yankees logo or like a specific brand that I work for to be like, yo, Jordan Brand's having an evening, let's pop off tonight. Like, of course people are going to show up. And that's the hard part, is people don't understand how hard it is, that like what you're doing and what I'm doing is like, it is so hard to get people to support, show up, and engage when you're a singular person that works essentially for himself, right? And like, I think it just reminds me of like when I was golfing with Drake 2 years ago, and I think the game was too early, dude. I got Drake a full set of custom golf clubs, and I was in Turks and Caicos, and he posted it. And if you go back, and people who pay attention can see, I'm not going to talk about the brand name, but I had a call with the brand that when he posted the clubs, the driver, and they're like, well, what does that mean? Well, what does that do for us? Like, how do we win financially? And I was like, are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, do you know what cultural relevance means? And I'm like, wow, I worked so hard for that moment. And that was when I realized, like, social media has its limits. Like, they want you when it's valuable, but when it doesn't turn into like an immediate financial transaction for someone, it stops there. And I was like, wow, you're questioning the fact that like the biggest rapper in the world, and a friend who set me up for this opportunity, posted a custom bag of clubs, and you're asking me, how does this like help our company? The photo had 12 million likes.
It's wild.
Like, it's wild. And I was like, I got so mad, because I was like, man, the game isn't there yet. If that happened today, completely different thing.
Oh yeah.
Right. And I think that's like something that I've struggled with. There was moments where frustration, which I'm sure you have too. And again, I make mistakes, man. I'm not perfect. Like, I'm competitive. So when I get frustrated, I stay to myself, and I just like keep it to myself. And I think like that could come off as like, oh, how my image is perceived to people, where, dude, we're in this, and we're working, and we're competitive, and we work so hard for like a moment, and when it gets lost in translation, it's frustrating,
Super frustrating. That's gnarly. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe button and drop us a quick review. It helps us keep the conversation going and growing. For more golf fashion, follow us over at Skratch and Golf Projects. We're always serving up style and stories that make this game what it is. And if you're hungry for even more, head over to scratch.golf, where our collective stories live. Until next time, dress well and play fast. Peace.